Prudent Scholars in association with Goa Headmasters Association.
Hello and welcome back, students. I'm teacher Sandra the Cunha. Today I'm going to be taking chapter 7, Glimpses of India. This particular chapter 7 has got altogether 3 units. The first unit is a baker from Goa, the second one is Kurg, and the third one is tea from Assam. Well, students, all 3 lessons of this particular chapter 7 are very, very interesting. And each one has got a beautiful story to tell. Well, let us take the first chapter, A Baker from Goa. Well, if I ask you the first question before I start my lesson, who wakes you up early in the morning? I'm sure the reply will be prompt from everybody, and all of you will agree and say it's the sound of the baker. The baker comes to our doorstep making the sound, all right, on his cycle or on his scooter. And this is how he comes early in the morning to deliver bread to our homes, to each one of us. And it is the sound of the baker which wakes us up. We all feel excited to have that fresh bread early in the morning. Well, students, I'm sure the pictures that I've shown here in this particular slide are very, very known to you. In this picture, you can see a baker on a cycle with his basket behind with bread inside the basket. I'm sure everybody is excited definitely when they see the baker coming to a doorstep. In the middle picture, you can see the furnace. Well, that's the traditional furnace. Till today, such type of furnaces do exist in a state of Goa. In the third picture, I've shown you a baker selling bread early in the morning, or maybe could be the second half of the day where he sells different kinds of bread. As you all know, we have got varieties of bread which are being made by our bakers. And of course, the top picture is a beautiful painting of a poder, the Goan poder, all right, whom we address in our local language. A baker is called as poder. So students, without wasting much time, let us move on to the next part of this lesson, A Baker from Goa. I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the author who has written this particular lesson, A Baker from Goa, and the author is Lucio Rodrigues. 1916 he was born, and it goes up to his journey till 1973. He was a great Konkani essayist, all right. He wrote several articles in English and Konkani to various periodicals and magazines. He served as a visiting professor of folklore at many universities and also as a professor of English in Mumbai and in Goa. His essays were published under the title of Soil and Soul and Konkani folk tales. Subtle humor and informal narration are the essential features of his writings. So this is a little bit about the author Lucio Rodrigues. Now in this picture, I have shown you 2 bakers in a furnace. This is a traditional Goan bakery, all right. Early in the morning, if you, or even midnight, you can see the bakers, they are at work because they start baking the bread depending upon how much are to be made for the next day. The orders that they have, they will start making the bread for us. So A Baker from Goa is a pen portrait of a traditional Goan village baker who still has an important place in the society. What changes take place in the life of the baker with the passage of time? Here is a glimpse presented in this extract. Students, I'm going to be taking you a journey right from the Portuguese days, all right, where we had the baker in our society till now, all right, the modern society. And if you have seen, there is a huge change between a baker during the Portuguese times and a baker in a modern times, all right. This is exactly what we are going to be studying at the end of the lesson. There is a huge difference between the 2 bakers. That is a baker during the Portuguese days and a baker now. Here the narrator recalls his childhood in Goa. The baker used to be their friend, companion and guide. He used to come at least twice a day. Alright, the children ran to meet the baker the moment they heard the jingling thud of his bamboo. He would greet the lady of the house, and the elders enjoyed the typical fragrance of those loaves, and the kids the music of the bamboo. You know, those days the baker would come with a peculiar dress. It would be a long black colored dress which was in the local language known as kabai. Okay, he would wear that dress and he would hold the basket on a bamboo stick. All right, the basket would be, I'm going to be showing you the picture in the next slide. The basket would be on the bamboo stick, and as soon as he reaches the house he would make the sound with his bamboo. So students, in this extract the author remembers his old days in Goa when the village baker occupied an important place in life. Although with the passage of time, people do not eat so much bread, yet the village bakers are still there. Alright, these bakers still exist and the furnaces do. They have not disappeared, alright. The tradition which was followed by the forefathers still now has been followed by the younger generation. The Portuguese were famous for preparing those loaves of bread. They left Goa long ago, but the traditional work of the bakers is still seen in Goa. The furnaces in which the bread was baked are still there. The sound of the traditional baker's bamboo can still be heard. Someone in the baker's family still carries on the business and the tradition. These bakers are known as padeiro in Goa even today. Alright, in Portuguese the pronunciation is padeiro, alright. In, of course, our local language we call the baker poder. Exactly, that's what's the difference, alright. The author recalls that a baker used to visit the village twice a day, as I've already mentioned to you, and he was more of a guide to his family, a friend. Now students, I've just given you the summary of this lesson, A Baker from Goa. We shall read this lesson now and understand more about it in detail. A Baker from Goa. This is a pen portrait of a traditional Goan village baker who still has an important place in his society. Our elders are often heard reminiscing nostalgically about these good old Portuguese days. Those eaters of loaves might have vanished, but the makers are still there. We still have amongst us the mixers, the molders, and those who bake the loaves. These age-old, time-tested furnaces still exist. The fire in the furnaces has not yet been extinguished. The thud, okay, this I will continue in the next slide. Now what does the author say here? Elders are nostalgic about the Portuguese bread. Elders in Goa still fondly think about those good old Portuguese days and their famous loaves of bread. The moment they get that smell, they become very nostalgic. What is the meaning of nostalgic, students? It means fondly thinking about the past. Okay, keep this word in mind, nostalgic. It means remembering the past. The fire in the furnaces that makes this bread has not yet been extinguished. Alright, so till today you can see those furnaces existing in our society. So students, I hope you have understood the first part of this lesson, alright, where we have discussed about how the elders in Goa are still nostalgic, thinking about the good old Portuguese days, that is the loaves, the bread that they had. Let us move on to the next part of the lesson. The traditional baker's bamboo heralding the arrival in the morning can still be heard in some places. Maybe the father is not alive, but the son still carries on the family profession. These bakers are even today known as padeiro in Goa. During our childhood in Goa, the baker used to be our friend, companion and guide. He used to come at least twice a day. Once when he set out in the morning on a selling round, and then again when he returned after emptying his huge basket. So students, you got to keep this in mind. The baker would come to their houses twice a day. Once, that is early in the morning, to give the bread, and second time while returning back to his place, he would drop by, and that would be his second visit to their houses. Why was it so? Was it for the love of that loaf? So why did he come twice a day to their house? Did he like that bread so much? Not at all. The loaves were bought by some Paskin or Bastin. Alright? The maid servant of the house. So the loaf, that is the bread, was bought by the maid servant of the house. What we longed for were those bread bangles. Well students, all of you know what are bread bangles? Alright, I have shown you the picture right there, what are bread bangles. I am sure many of you have eaten those bread bangles when you were a little baby, because most of the time babies are given those dipped in black tea or milk tea, depends how the parents would like to give them. But these were the bread bangles even sold during the Portuguese days, okay. So he says, what we longed for were those bread bangles which we chose carefully. Sometimes it was special bread of special make, and sometimes he would also come with a very special bread. As you all know, we have a sweet bread which is called ball, right? So most of us have those breads which are available with the baker. Most of the time in the evening you find the bakers selling the sweet bread besides the other breads as well. The baker made his musical entry on the scene with the jang jang sound of a specially made bamboo stuff. So as I told you, he would make the sound with a stick, alright. And once that sound was heard, the people in the house would come out to welcome the baker. One hand supported the basket on his head and the other banged the bamboo on the ground. So in one hand he had the basket on his head, where he would use the hand to support the basket. On the other hand he would hold the stick and make that jang sound, alright. He would greet the lady of the house with good morning, and then place his basket on the vertical bamboo. So he would greet the lady of the house early in the morning, and then place his basket on the vertical bamboo. We kids would be pushed aside with a mild rebuke, and the loaves would be delivered to the servant. So sometimes the baker would give us a mild shout, alright, because all of us would come together, rush near the basket and try to see what's in. So he would just try to give us a little shout and say, come on, you all move aside, and the bread would be then handed over to the maid of the house. But we would not give up. We would climb a bench or the parapet and peep into the basket. So the author fondly remembers, he says, we would not give up even if the baker insisted on us moving aside. We would try to peep inside the basket and see what is still inside, alright, either standing on a parapet or on the, or try to see what is inside the basket. Somehow I can still recall the typical fragrance of those loaves. And Lucio Rodriguez says he can still recall the fragrance, the aroma, the smell that he would get of the loaves, that is the bread. Loaves for the elders and bangles for the children. So loaves, bread were meant for elders, okay, and the bread bangles which I have shown you in the picture there, they were meant for the children. Then we did not even care to brush our teeth or wash our mouths properly. And why should we? So the author remembers, we did not even care to brush our teeth or wash our mouths properly. Who would take the trouble of plucking the mango leaf for the toothbrush? He says, and those days they did not use a toothbrush to brush their teeth. They would pluck a mango leaf, and with the help of the mango leaf, they would brush their teeth. Well, I'm sure that sounds a little bit weird to you, but this is exactly what happened during those days, during the olden days. And then he says, why was it necessary at all? The tiger never brushed his teeth. And then the author says, why was it important to brush our teeth? All right, then he refers to the tiger. He says the tiger never brushed his teeth. Hot tea could wash and clean up everything so nicely. So what they would do is they would take a hot glass of water and rinse their mouth with that hot water. And he says that was more than enough, all right, to make you feel good. So everything would be nicely cleansed, and he says after all this would give them a nice feeling. So students, in this particular part of the lesson, we have to keep in mind how the baker came, all right, early in the morning. I've told you he came twice, that is once to deliver the bread, and the second time would be when he would return to his home, all right. Not because he loved the bread or so, but he had a special reason for that as well. And then in the second part of the lesson, I've told you how he would use the bamboo stick, all right. He would make that jang jang sound, all right, with his traditional bamboo stick. And hearing that sound, the people of the house would come out, all right, to greet the baker. He would also greet them by wishing them good morning and so forth. So children would also all rush to the baker, more because not they wanted to eat the bread at that time itself, but because they wanted to see what is there in his basket. So the excitement was more among the children, and then he would slightly rebuke them, scold them a little bit, all right, and make them move a little aside and ask the maid of the house to take the bread. That's the last part of this lesson, student. Now, here we come to the part where baker was a very important person in the society. Especially we will discuss about the marriages in Goa, all right, how important the baker was during those days. Now let us read that part of the lesson. Marriage gifts are meaningless without the sweet bread known as the ball. As I've already told you, the sweet bread was called ball. Just as a party or a feast loses its charm without bread. So students, many times you attend parties, you have attended parties in Goa, you have gone for weddings, you'll see different types of bread which are spread on the table. Alright, we also have a sliced bread. You go to a big shop where they sell different types of biscuits, cookies, breads, alright, you will see variety of shapes there as well. So this is the difference between a traditional baker and a modern bakery, a traditional bakery and a modern bakery. The lady of the house must prepare sandwiches on the occasion of her daughter's engagement. So if there is an occasion in the house, for example, Lucy Rodriguez talks about her daughter's engagement. So even on such kind of occasions, they had the lady of the house preparing bread sandwiches. You know, today even we prepare bread sandwiches and we apply butter, jam, or maybe chutney, and we have got different kind of spreads and dips which we apply on our bread. Cakes and bolinas are a must for Christmas as well as other festivals. Till today, you see, cakes are a must. I've shown you the picture of a cake over there, sandwiches, and then we have those traditional bolinas. You know all that these biscuits, the special bolinas in Goa are made of coconut and rava, right? Semolina. So with a combination of these two ingredients, the coconut juice, eggs, of course, we make the bolinas. Then the sandwiches are still made even today. Even if we think of going out on a picnic, we ask mom to pack some sandwiches in our tiffin. Cake is still used on birthdays. So you see students, all this tradition which was followed during the Portuguese days is still continued by the people. Thus the presence of the baker's furnace in the village is absolutely essential. Very important. The furnace is absolutely essential. What is the meaning of essential? Very important, okay? So students, today if you go to the villages in Goa, you still find the furnaces. Alright, those people, the makers of those furnaces might have died and gone, but the tradition is followed, alright, by their, that is children. It has been followed from one generation to another. The baker or bread seller of those days had a peculiar dress known as the kabai. Alright students, they wore that long dress. It was a dress which was called in their language kabai. Kabai means a long dress, okay. Today you see a baker coming with a shirt and a pant, alright, or a t-shirt and a pant. It was a single piece long frock reaching down to the knees. So it was a one-piece dress reaching right up to the knees of the baker. This dress was called kabai. Students, keep in mind this dress was worn during the Portuguese days. Alright. In our childhood, we saw bakers wearing a shirt and a trouser which was shorter than full length ones and longer than half pants. I'm sure students, you have seen a baker like that as well. He wears a trouser which is longer than the knee length, alright, or sometimes a long pant. And he wears a t-shirt or a shirt, depends on what he prefers to wear. Even today, everyone who wears a half pant which reaches just below the knees invites the comment that he is dressed like a poder. So you see any boy dressed up with a pant which is just below his knees, people will say, oh, he is dressed up like a pader. The baker usually collected the bills at the end of the month. This was a tradition which was followed during the Portuguese days. The baker would come to the house to deliver the bread, but the people would not give the money there and there, okay. So what the baker did, at the end of the month, he would collect the money from the people. And of course, the bills were well maintained. Today we have books to maintain the bills, alright, and we keep day-to-day's account. Let us find out how the baker kept his bills prepared and how he knew how much he needed to collect from each house. Monthly accounts used to be recorded on some wall in pencil. So students, keep this in mind. So all the monthly accounts were written down on a wall. We have walls, no? Room walls. The baker would make a record of those bills on the walls of the house, okay? And he would write these bills in pencil. Baking was indeed a profitable profession in the good old days. In the old days, it was a very profitable profession. What does that mean? Profitable. Bakers made a lot of money. Students, do you think today baking is a highly profitable profession? Are these bakers of Goa very rich today? Are they making a lot of money? What do you think so? Why is today a baker not able to make the same amount of money which he made during the Portuguese days or even during a little later, alright? It is said that the baker and his family never starved during those days because for them baking was a very profitable profession. They never starved, okay. He and his family and servants looked happy and prosperous. They all looked nice, very happy, very prosperous. They had a lot of money with them because baking was a very profitable profession. Their plump physique. What is the meaning of plump? When somebody has nice chubby cheeks, right? We say that person or somebody who's got a nice and round body, we say he's nice and plump. So the plump physique was an open testimony to this. So the way the baker and his family looked like, all of them were nice and round, they were fat, okay, they were very healthy. Very soon you could make out that they belonged to the baker's family. Even today, any person with a jackfruit-like physical appearance is easily compared to a baker. Even today, anybody who has got a jackfruit-like appearance, which means who is nice and round, alright, at his waist and who is quite big in size, we till today compare him to a baker. So students, with this, we have come to the end of this lesson, and this is about a baker from Goa. Well, students, we will just have a look at how the baker's importance on Christmas and other festivals was very important, right? Marriage gifts in Goa, they were said to be meaningless without the sweet bread or the ball, as I've already told you about this point. Any party or feast was incomplete without bread. The baker was very important for the village, and cakes, bolinas, sandwiches, all these were baked and made during any important occasion in Goa. Students, in the last slide, I have shown you a baker from Goa, alright, and in this slide you will see a few differences between a traditional baker and a modern baker, yeah. The bread that was made during the olden days and the type of bread that we make now. We might have different types of sizes, different shapes, alright, but you see there are a lot of differences during the during those days how the bread was made, that is the traditional bread and the modern bread. Facts about bakers of Goa. A traditional baker in Goa is called pader. In the Portuguese days, bakers used to wear knee-length single-piece frock known as cabai. Modern bakers, they are large independent bakeries. Their products are biscuits, bread, various other types of snacks, alright, and they are not only sold in the place where they belong to, but they are transported even from one district to another. For example, in Goa, let's take from South Goa, they are even transported to North Goa. From North Goa, they are even brought to South Goa and sold. So this is the difference between a traditional baker and a modern baker. So students, once again, I suppose already the lesson is explained to you and you have understood it well. Thank you and have a good day.